Nah, I got something to prove and I ain't never gonna give up. Plenty of juice and I ain't never gonna waste it. Something to do and I ain't never wanna quit it. So come on, get a little bit, I know you wanna play with it. Coming to you from Studio Iguana Monk down in the Big Dirty, it's the Twisted Pop Podcast, where we explore what it means to be a working artist living in the real world. Please welcome your hosts, Larry Lines and Troy Winston.
So, this is the Twisted Pop Podcast, episode 20.
Do we have a 19? Who knows?
Who knows? 19? No, it is 20. This is the 20th one. We're going to put another one in between.
Oh.
That isn't finished yet.
Ah, awesome. It's awesome living in the future, Larry. You should see it from my perspective.
So, today we have Sarita Callender.
Ah.
Also known as Jade Lesyeux. I'm going to ask her how to pronounce it.
She's involved in a lot of things.
Yes, and we're about to talk about all of them.
Uh-huh. We are going to talk about all of them.
And then...
Yeah.
Let's just jump it. We're here with Sarita Callender, otherwise known as Jade. How do you pronounce that last name that you're going by?
Lesyeux.
Lesyeux. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And you're a film producer.
I am.
Do you prefer one name over the other?
I'm really not bothered. A lot of people have difficulty remembering, pronouncing, or spelling Sarita, so some people are happy using Jade. I'll answer to anything if it sounds vaguely like I'm being called.
Okay.
So, Sarita, I don't really know where to start because, as I've been digging through information, I interviewed DL, and then it sounded so fascinating, some of the stuff that you're doing. And then I actually dug up your website here, and then I had to cross over the Sarita Callender and Jade. So, you're the sole proprietor of Unicorn and Cobra. Is that correct?
Yes, I am now. I was originally going to start the company with actor Ivory Ocean back in 2012. Unfortunately, 6 months after I arrived here, he passed away. So I kind of put everything on a back burner to figure out, sort of what I could do, sort of where things could go, and then started up as sole proprietor 2 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So this is this makes me ask questions like from the beginning because I see some of the stuff here because it like pushes me all the way back, to where did you start from and where were you coming from? Like I see some of the stuff that you were a stage actor for quite some time.
Yeah. Since the age of 5.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
So, and this was in England, and you grew up in England, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how did you get involved in acting on the stage when you were 5?
Somebody spotted me, wanted to put me in a production, approached my parents to ask if it was okay. My mother was highly dubious and was thinking, all the sex, drugs, rock and roll, and, all the bad side of things. My dad was like, sure, why not?
Well, thank God.
So, throughout my school years and on into young adult life, I performed on stage in operatic and dramatic performances.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you were a professional from the beginning. That's so interesting. And it's also interesting, it's like one of those sort of classic performer Hollywood discovery things. They just discovered you. You know what I mean? Like, it was like, oh, look, there's that girl on the street. We're going to get her into our stage production here. Sign that girl.
I've always been like animated. I've always been outgoing. I'm not shy around anybody, and I think this guy just saw how animated I was. and was like, it would be great for stage. And so, yeah, it kind of started from that.
That's
And
interesting.
I haven't calmed down any since then. I still charge around everywhere. I'm larger than life. Chat to anybody. Yeah, I'm not scared of anything or anyone.
It takes that for performers, especially stage performers, and having been around
Oh yeah.
a lot of stage performers. I'm a musician, and I'm not like a natural to the stage, like that's not it. But I know people that are a natural to the stage. My son is one, and we've known plenty of people here that are like that, and it's something that can't be taught. So I could totally see seeing a kid and saying, yeah, put her on the stage, because you can definitely tell, like when somebody just has no fear of this kind of outgoing stuff. So you were that kid. You're just like, yeah, put me on the stage. I'm there.
Yeah. The moment I walked out I had one line in the first performance for which I was chosen, and when I walked out center front and delivered that line, and the audience went wild, I was hooked. I was like, this is what I have to do. This is it for me. I want to be an actress, and was for many years. On stage, and then my first independent short movie, I was 16. It went to the cinemas when I turned 17.
No kidding.
And
What was it?
then I'm not going to tell you the title of it because I am a little embarrassed.
Oh, we had a whole show about the embarrassing stuff that we've done in the past, so we'll have to do our own CSI work.
I was a bad guy, a very, very bad guy. I played a drug smuggling lesbian.
Oh, awesome. Now I've got to find it.
And basically, my girlfriend left me for a guy, and so I took my revenge on him by selling him bad drugs and killing him. So she ratted me out to the police.
It's like you just told my life story. How did you know?
I loved even though it was a very, very low budget, sort of the acting wasn't fantastic. It was a great experience, and I got to play something that is so completely not me. I found it fun. I found it liberating, and it's like since then, it's like I've just wanted to be everything, do everything, and got more involved in the production side of things, the writing side of things. I've directed on stage, so it's like, yeah, now I know everything, and I just want to do it all.
That's cool. It's I could totally relate to this experience because I end up doing stuff like that. Like we got into film last year from nothing. Like this is so.
Yeah.
Me and Troy have done a lot of things over the years, but never a dramatic portrayal in a movie. And then I just started buying equipment, and we just started doing it. So we're in over our heads. But so we decided to do some podcasts and like pick people's brains on a variety of things. But it's so interesting that you spent about 30 years as an actor, and then what made you decide to come to America and start a production company?
Well, I didn't, and this is where the witness protection aspect comes in.
Ooh.
Basically, I came over here. I lined up a number of appointments, a number of interviews with people with regards to various aspects of work. By the time I came over here, I was an internationally published, award-winning writer in my own right on both sides of the Atlantic. Sort of people were very interested in, sort of my writing predominantly. One of the people I had planned to meet while I was over here was the actor Ivory Ocean, for whom I was going to be writing a lot of scripts for the movie he was going to produce. Unfortunately, the first person I met with when I came over here was not who they claimed to be, and my children and I ended up being kidnapped and held against our will.
What?
For a number of months.
Months?
Yes.
Wow.
Eventually we were rescued by the police, and we had to go through the whole, so like we were moved through a number of different shelters before we were moved into a confidential location shelter, or a building where we were not allowed to leave. We were not allowed to talk to anybody from the outside world. We had somebody come pick us up each time we needed to go see the attorneys and all the rest of it. And we were eventually identified as the first international survivors of human trafficking from Great Britain to America.
Holy crap, that's crazy.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's quite a story. On top of it being incredibly traumatic.
Yeah.
And your kids were with you too. I mean, this is
yeah.
That's amazing. It's and then and then to come out of that, and you're just you seem to be just pushing forward, like into a new area.
Yeah, I kind of one of the things that the principal trafficker tried to do was break my mind. And I underwent a number of well-known torture techniques for breaking people, sleep deprivation, sort of undermining everything, like being set a task and then doing it and then being told, no, that's wrong. And then they tell you how to do it, and they tell you a different way of doing it. So it makes it look like you're wrong. And after a while, you start to disbelieve your abilities and understanding.
Kind of like a gaslighting type of thing. Yeah. So
yeah.
You're like changing things slowly and moving the prize around, so you're never really with it. Yeah.
Yeah. They tried to break the bond my children and I had by they separated. I didn't see my children for the first month that we were there. And they were feeding them lies about me and what I was doing. They were feeding me lies about my kids, but it didn't work.
Wow.
I know who I am. They couldn't break my spirit, and if anything, it's kind of made me more resolute. It's like, so if I can get out there and do this, it just proves everything they tried to make me believe about myself. So it's like, yeah, I'm that close to making some fantastically huge things happen. And the minute that, I get that final piece of paper signed, it'll be like, see, I was right all along.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's amazing. So how did you end up, I mean, was it an escape thing? In the end, you just escaped with your children?
Not exactly. Basically what happened was they didn't reckon on my brain and how strong a person I am, or the fact that I have a little bit of paranoia about things. So because I'd been traveling between England and America to meet with people for projects, so this didn't seem out of the ordinary. However, when I travel to save money, I don't take my UK phone and use it in America. I buy a disposable phone in America, put $25 worth of credit on it, use that while I'm in America, because it saves the international roaming fees, which are like $1 a minute to talk. Yeah. He didn't
anticipate that. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, he took my flight bag, which had our wallets, our passports, every form of ID, and the phone I purchased for use in America. My UK phone was locked away in one of my suitcases. And I don't know exactly when. I didn't have access to clocks, calendars, TV. I didn't know what the day was or anything. But eventually I was moved into a different part of the building, and the room he put me in had our suitcases. I didn't have the keys for the padlocks because they were in my flight bag, which he'd taken. So I spent days trying to break the key tab to get into my suitcase. Managed to dig through it, find my phone, which by that point had no charge on it. So I then had to risk trying to charge my phone, and my, the international adapters for charging was in the same suitcase.
Uh-huh.
So whenever I saw him leave, I had no idea how long he was going to be gone. So I had to like charge it a little at a time so it wasn't discovered. And then eventually I sent a text to my UK phone provider because I hadn't got it activated for international calls, so I couldn't make a call.
Oh.
So I had to text my phone provider to ask them to activate international roaming so I could then call out on my phone. And then I don't know exactly how many days it was. I got a response from them telling me that I had sufficient credit in the bank, so they were able to activate it. So they'd taken their fees for that, and then I had to use the activation code, and it was like doing this just every now and then when I could see he'd gone.
Amazing.
And then I had enough charge on the phone. I activated the international roaming. I put in the code and everything. I dialed 911, and all I heard was static. And I was just like, I don't know where I am. I think the name of the street is, but that's all I could tell them. I hoped that they'd heard me. I hung up. I put everything away. 20 minutes later, the house was surrounded, flashing lights, sirens, everything. Myself, my 2 children, and two other teenagers were rescued that night. And then 2 other teenagers were rescued a few days later from another property where he was holding people.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. It sounds like a movie script in itself.
Yeah. Right.
So it's an amazing story. And then when they put you in witness protection because the network was bigger, apparently.
Yeah, basically the first shelter they took us to, after being interviewed by the police for hours and hours and hours and hours, the only place they could find to take us, that it was like 4 o'clock on a Sunday morning when they took us to a YWCA. And because it's a public access building, the woman who did our intake interview and was my case manager decided that maybe it wasn't safe because anybody could walk in. And at that point, he had run. They didn't know where he was. They sort of like they were looking for him. There was an arrest warrant issued. But it's like, he could have walked into the building at any time. So she suggested that we were moved elsewhere. They went through, sort of like trying to find somewhere else for us. There was only one. This is a tiny, tiny town in Midwest America. There were only 2 shelters. So it really wouldn't have taken them long to find us anyway.
Yeah.
So from the second shelter we were moved to, we were assisted to be moved across state lines for safety, but that wasn't far enough. The state we were taken across state lines. We had been in the second state for maybe a month, and the case manager who took over our case didn't seem to be aware of the magnitude of what we were involved with. I mean, I didn't at that time. So she had my children enroll in the local school, and that's all public record.
Right.
Oh.
And we got a phone call from the school one morning saying that there's a gentleman in the schoolyard claiming my youngest was his son. And she was like, well, that was suspicious because there's nothing on the records to show that, there was a father who has permission to pick up the child. So we were called to go down to the school, by which time he'd disappeared, and I took my children out of the school. They then moved us over 1,000 miles away to another state, to another tiny little out-of-the-way place that even people who live there have never heard of.
Yeah.
And this kind of thing went on for a while. It's like every place we were moved to, somebody would say, oh, it's not safe here. My case manager at this new place was like one of the area codes for the people who were involved, sort of like with kidnapping, with luring and all the rest of it, was a local number to that area. So they were like, you can't stay here.
Yeah.
So then we were moved thousands of miles again. And eventually when I arrived at the next location, I went to the USCIS office because I have to tell them where I am while I'm going through this, the criminal proceedings and adjustment of status on my visa. So I went into the USCIS office and, explained to them where I'd come from, why I was moving, and they put me in touch with an organization who deal with people who have gone through what I've gone through. And on meeting with them and doing an intake with them, they identified me as a survivor of human trafficking. They said I met the criteria and then some, and they put us into, sort of witness protection. We were completely off the grid. They did everything right. They were able to help us get the visa situation sorted. They were able to help with the criminal case and the building of it. And then eventually it was just over 2 years ago. This particular gentleman, for want of a better word, was convicted and put away for life without the possibility of parole.
Wow.
So it was basically 2 years ago. I was kind of like, okay, so now I can let people know who I am and get back to business and try and find myself again. And it didn't take too long before I was making connections and hanging out with people and not telling them what I'd been through or sort of why there was this big gap. But sort of like convincing myself I was still me.
Yeah.
And that I could still do all the things that tried to convince me I couldn't do.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm doing it.
That's incredible. That's incredible story.
Yeah, it's extraordinary in so many ways. I'm so glad that you're sharing it with us, for one, because it's an amazing story, and that you can tell it now, because you got a couple of years between you and the story itself. I imagine it was an amazing relief when he finally got convicted and sent to prison.
It was. When the detective called me and told me, sort of what the outcome of the trial and everything was, I didn't, at that exact moment, I didn't know whether to laugh or cry, and I kind of ended up doing both. And I was just like, I don't know what's going on in my head right now. It was just kind of like totally overwhelming. But then sort of like within a couple of days, I guess it kind of started to make sense, and I'm like, it's over. It's actually over.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And
so your kids too, it must have been, overall, even in your own life, you're losing a couple of years, like just, one thing to the next, but then, raising your kids and, doing the best to keep them calm and, safe. It says, having kids of myself, I can't imagine. It was a tough thing to go through.
I know it was a lot harder for them because, I was already an adult. I knew who I was.
Yeah.
My children at the start of this ordeal were just 10 and 17.
Yeah.
So my 17-year-old has come through it a little better. At 17 in England, you're an adult. In America, not so much. So here, my eldest was kind of treated more as a child, was not permitted to, was not considered equal to me in what had gone on. So I was the principal in the case and they were my children. So I had the meetings with the attorneys. I had the meetings with the case managers. The only time my children were spoken to was we had to undergo a psychological evaluation as part of the case to be identified as suffering from PTSD, various forms of anxiety, and sort of other conditions, so that we could get the assistance we needed to get over what had mentally been inflicted on us. So my eldest was very angry because they wanted to talk, they wanted to express themselves, but were considered a child, and we need to talk to your mom. So then they've kind of been dealing with the anger issues and have become rather shut off and untrusting of people who are supposed to help. My youngest, I think, has been the most severely affected. He was only 10 years old when this happened, and in some ways he's still kind of 10 years old. Sort of going through the shelter system, through the witness protection system, not being able to attend school,
Yeah.
not being able to hang out with peers.
Yeah.
Sort of that isolated for that long has held him back with being able to form proper relationships and understand things. And sort of suddenly becoming an adult, let's say 2 years ago, this was kind of over for us. He was 19.
Ooh. Yeah.
Just coming up to 20 when we were told this guy is gone, it's over. And it's just like,
Right.
Yeah. It's only just beginning in some ways.
All of a sudden, I've got to finish school, go to college, be an adult, do all this stuff. And it's like, but I haven't done the 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17-year-old things. So yeah, he's having a lot of time understanding, adult things and children things and make, friendships with people. He's still very sort of juvenile in a lot of things he wants to do, a lot of things he's interested in, but at the same time he knows, he's struggling with the responsibilities of being seen as an adult.
Yeah.
So he had to kind of tread water back in, and she had to kind of tread water back into college. How did you? That had to have been difficult for you to even consider getting back to work. But how can you talk to that?
It was because I did feel very unsure of myself, and I was like, I don't want this guy to hold it over me now. He's been arrested. I didn't want him holding anything over me, sort of while it was going through the trial and everything. And it was just like, every time I think about it, every time I doubt myself, he's still got me.
Yeah.
And so I had to tell myself, if I want to do something, I can go do it. And so I've been pushing forward with those things. It's like I will have moments where I'm like, should I call this person? I don't know if they'll take me seriously. I don't know if they'll, sort of accept who I am and what I'm doing. And then I'm like, but I'm the CEO of this company.
Yeah,
I'm going to make the call. It's my decision. I'm going to do it. And I make the call, and 9 times out of 10, something great happens. Sometimes it's not exactly what I was hoping to get from that call, but I still make good connections and things still happen. So sort of basically along the way, I've met a couple of people who have tried to take advantage of me, sort of being new to this area and new to this level of responsibility as a business owner. But for the most part, the people I've met have been tremendously supportive, respectful, and that's without even knowing what I've been through. They just know me as the CEO of Unicorn and Cobra Films and a movie producer who's working on, a number of projects. And, that's what they see. And now I see it.
What's interesting about that is that there's a certain amount of doubt that goes with reaching out like that anyway. You know what I mean? Like it's, you're starting something new. Even if you've done something like it before, it's just so difficult to reach out and put yourself out there. And now you have almost
tenfold of that.
Yes, I could see the self-doubt being tenfold.
Yeah.
And also you have an obligation to yourself and your children to actually push through that.
Yeah.
So it's you have more of a reason and more of a reason not to. You've got to be really strong to be where you're at. So.
Definitely my kids have helped me a lot to keep me strong and keep me moving forward. They are my reason for living. But I've also, I have a wonderful mantra. I don't even know who originated it. I don't know where it comes from, but if you don't ask, the answer is going to be no.
My mom. That comes from my mom. That's a direct quote from her.
Thank you for your mom. Thank you.
I'll tell her.
Kind of okay.
That it's gotten this far.
Yes, it's big in Southern California. So it's so I pick up my phone and I'm thinking, do I make this call? Do I make this call? And I'm like, well, if I don't ask, it's going to be no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I make that call. And
she also has one about a party. If you don't go to a party, you don't know if you're going to have fun or not.
Oh, very true. Very true. Yeah. I've been invited to a few events, some red carpet movie premieres. celebrity toy drives and things like that.
Yeah,
And
I've
I'm
seen
like,
some of the pictures of the red carpet stuff. You look like you're having a good time.
well, exactly, I am, because it's like, if I don't go,
Yeah.
I'm going to miss an opportunity.
Yeah.
And so no matter how tired I am, no matter how awkward I feel, I'm thinking, like, I don't have a wardrobe full of designer dresses. I have one. And I know over here there's a whole lot of stigma attached if an actress or, somebody is seen wearing the same dress twice. And I'm just like, I don't care. I'm going to go.
If they're so bothered by it, they can buy you another one.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's like, I'm going to go. And then, let's see, I was at a red carpet premiere for a movie called Special Unit, which stars Christopher Titus, who's a comedian.
Yeah.
Great movie, and I think it would do really, really well in England. I can't wait for you guys to get it. I believe it came out, or is coming out on iTunes tomorrow.
Oh.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What's the name again?
Special Unit.
Okay. So.
Titus had a show. He stand-up comedian. He had a show for a while. I think it was called Titus.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Funny guy.
Yeah.
And very, 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 very briefly, it features the disabled and how the disabled are perceived by most people here. And I know, being from England, it's the same everywhere else too.
Yeah.
That people feel awkward around somebody in a wheelchair, or sort of like, if they are physically different, people are not sure how to talk to them, or they'll talk to the person pushing the wheelchair, and it covers a lot of that hilariously. But the disabled people in the movie actually are disabled actors, and
well, yeah, because we're at the millennium now. We can do that now.
yeah, and they're no angels either.
Yeah, that's right.
So they shoot back just as hard.
That's awesome.
Literally, a midget with a shotgun is hilarious. So yeah, look out for Special Unit.
Okay.
And I say, I made wonderful connections. I'm now friends with Christopher Titus. I'm going to help him try and improve his distribution deal for his movie, because I have connections in Europe and Australia, and I'm forging connections with Asia as well. But on top of that, I need some disabled actors for a movie coming up, and now I have access to pretty much everybody I met there.
Ah.
That's
You
great.
know? So it's like, everything you do attend,
Yes.
you walk away with something.
Yeah.
If somebody happens to see the photo that was taken of me with somebody who I may not have even realized at the time, I was at an independent music industry event and didn't realize I was talking to Gucci Mane.
Wow.
But we were considered equals because we were both sitting on the panel of industry professionals, because I was invited to go. It was a local radio station called The Radio Show. They're on 1580 AM on Monday nights, and on AM, and they have a website, and they try to promote independent and unsigned artists. And I was asked to come along and be an industry professional as to how these people might be able to work with the independent movie industry for like soundtracks, things like that, which would help to promote the music artists. And I was like, yeah, I'd love to. And yeah, so I'm sitting with Gucci Mane. I'm sitting with a lady called Silky D, who was one of the first official. She was the first official female DJ and rap artist here in America. And so I don't realize I'm sitting with industry royalty.
Yeah.
And they're treating me as an equal, and I'm like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
So it's just, everything you attend leads to something. There's a good connection made, or somebody spots a photo of you and like, I'd love you to do this for us. So yeah, it's kind of really helped me feel more like myself. The whole outgoing side of things. I'll just go up and talk to people. I don't know who they are, and if it comes to light afterwards that oh, that was so and so, I'm like, oh, and I've got their number as well.
Yeah, that's really great. This is so. this was you've been. Have any of the movies that you've produced with Unicorn and Cobra come out yet? Because it looks like they're all in production, right?
Yeah. We've got a number of them in production. We've got a number in development, and I'm about to update my website because we've got a few more to add.
Oh, a few more in production. That's funny.
Well, in development.
In development, okay.
Yeah. Basically, I tend to be pretty good at multitasking, and rather than focus on just the one movie, it's like, well, if I have a number of them at different stages, depending on connections that are made or depending on what deals I can make with like distribution, etc., I can swap the order of stuff. But if it's all up there, everybody can see, that it's not suddenly one disappears and another one pops up. It's like they're all up there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've got more stuff to add. I've got a couple of action movies that I'll be putting the details up for, and I'm already in talks with some of the actors for them.
So soon in development. That's funny. You'll have things booked for years. It's amazing.
Yeah, we're going to be up to 2022, 2023.
Okay, so let's go to the first one that will be the most. That you're closest to. I think you've already shot, right? Girl in a Coma?
No, we're looking to shoot it in February.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's what is this movie about?
It's a supernatural thriller.
Okay.
And it's the story of a girl who is found at a body dump site, but then they realize she's not quite dead. So she's rushed into hospital in a coma. And she's rushed into surgery. They do their best to repair what they can, remove the bits that are too far damaged. She's been bitten, burned, stabbed, shot, like everything you can imagine done to somebody has been done to her, and she survived it.
Yeah.
The doctor, Dr. Harper Cameron, who is played by LeJohn, who has appeared in the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. He did I think it was Fast and Furious 7 or 8. He was in The Dark Knight Rises. Mm-hmm. He crops up in all kinds of things. He admits to the detective covering the case that he kind of hopes she doesn't regain consciousness because he doesn't think she'll cope very well with what's happened to her. And obviously she's going to have to live with the physical scars. And she was a model. She's incredibly exotic. And the actress playing the girl in the coma is Donna Lee Heising. She's a scream queen from horror movies. She's done 200 movies.
Yeah.
She's incredibly exotic, sort of Japanese, Chinese, sort of beautiful, beautiful woman, and a wonderful person. I've met her. I've already met her, sat down, talked with her. She's a lovely, lovely lady. And she will be screaming a lot in this movie. I say through the movie itself, she's in the coma, but she's found a way to reach out and tell her story, even though she's in a coma. An unfortunate gentleman who is delivering flowers to the hospital gets a drop of her blood on him, and she makes a psychic connection.
I see.
And then his name is Charles Miller, and he's played by Lester Spate, who was in the Transformers movie.
Yep.
He also does the voice of Augustus Cole in the Gears of War.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So he's a pretty big guy in the industry. Well, he is a pretty big guy. He's 6'6".
Yeah.
And he's African American, and so the police are convinced he's got something to do with it, because the police over here tend to be very quick to judge if there's a difference in skin color.
Yes.
So the police start pursuing him because of this one drop of blood, proving he must have been there. But he starts having nightmares, and he experiences everything that was done to her while she's being tortured. So he's freaking out, wondering what's happening, and the police are even more convinced he knows what's going on because he knows way too much about the case. And then the police basically bring him in for questioning. While he's in there for questioning, they search his house, and sort of where he got the drop of blood on him, he wiped it on his trousers, and the police find them. and the connection with the blood, and they're convinced it's him. So they arrest him. He's in jail, and he has one of his nightmares and completely scares his cellmate out. His cellmate is played by Robert Lasardo, who crops up in almost every TV cop show. He's always the Hispanic guy who's in jail. He's covered in tattoos, like from here down. Yeah. He gets to talk to his attorney. Lester's character doesn't at this point have an attorney. So his cellmate talks to his attorney like, you've got to get me out of here right now. This guy is crazy. His attorney, who is played by Carlos Ramirez, his twin brother Ephraim Ramirez was in the Crank movies with Jason Statham.
Okay.
And there's a scene in one of the movies where Ephraim is watching himself dance. I think he's on a mixture of drugs in the mirror, but it's actually his twin who's doing in that scene. Both of them were actually Robert Lasardo and Carlos Ramirez were in The Human Centipede 3 recently.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. And one of the girls who did the special effects, the medical special effects for that movie is our special effects lady for the girl in a coma. So she'll be doing all the medical stuff for the girl in the coma. But basically every time she nearly flatlines or does flatline and they're trying to bring her back because of what her body's going through, he's having nightmares.
Okay. Well, that's a great premise.
But then basically, so Robert Lasardo's attorney, when he hears about what's going on, knows exactly who should take his case. And he talks to a lady, that the role we have not yet cast, we have our eye on somebody for it, if we can afford her. And she is more of an organic person. She's very into the sort of healing and all this kind of thing. And she calls in a Native American Indian friend of hers who's a psychiatrist who specializes in hypnotherapy. And he's played by Noah Hathaway from The Neverending Story.
Yeah.
He was Atreyu, the kid with the white horse.
Yep.
Yeah. So he comes in, puts this guy under hypnosis and realizes what's going on. And they discover that the reason she's reaching out is because she's trying to save the life of another girl who was there.
Okay.
So he ends up helping the police to go find what was going on and who's actually behind it all.
It's amazing. That's a really great idea.
Yeah.
And who wrote it?
A young kid from England called Andy Travis, who has never had anything published, but really should. He is very sick. Has some there are 4 movies four things he's written I want to make into movies, because this is a level of like horror and weird stuff that people haven't seen. And he was just too shy. We actually met on a Facebook Brits in LA group and got talking. Met for coffee, and yeah, it's just like, the stuff he's written, it really needs to be out there. It is amazing. So yeah, we've got a few more from him coming up.
Oh, no kidding. There's and then even some of the other stuff that you have, like in development. There's a Wounded Warriors thing. I can't remember the.
There's a set of 12 martial arts action movies.
No kidding. So you get it's a graphic novel too. So it's a long story arc.
It's not yet. Basically, the movies are being made as a graphic novel to movie style, but we will actually be making the graphic novels to go with the DVDs when you purchase the DVD.
Very cool.
So you'll get more of the background of everything.
That's very cool.
And we have wonderful people working on that for us. I don't know if you remember a rock group by the name of Twisted Sister.
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit.
A little bit? Okay. But Dee Snider's son, Jesse, is working with us on the graphic novels.
That's
very
great.
cool.
And one of the artists who's doing like their sort of artistic style has worked for Marvel and DC, so it is awesome quality. There's a couple of the pictures up on the site.
Cool.
The artwork done by Nate. So it's like, yeah, they are going to be absolutely awesome when we get to them. But the reason this set of 12 martial arts action movies are part of the Wounded Warrior set is because either the main antagonist or protagonist have a disability.
Oh, that's a great history of that. That's awesome.
That's really cool. It just like it was dawning on me as you were, but that is a really cool premise.
There's an old martial arts movie that has some disabled people that are doing martial arts throughout the whole movie. That's a great, cool history lineage to follow.
Exactly. I mean, that's kind of the style of movie we want to do, is going back to those that particular style. So they're not necessarily gonna look fresh 21st century. They're gonna look old school style.
Hong Kong B flick. That's awesome. Oh, yeah. I'm a big fan already.
Me too.
And we already have people like TJ Storm is already signed up for at least one of them. We're going to try and get him on a few more. He is the guy behind the stop motion capture for Deadpool.
Yeah.
He does, I think it was Colossus he did in Deadpool. He did the stop motion capture for Godzilla. He's behind a whole lot of those things. He's a martial artist in, I think, black belt in 5 disciplines, has a huge following in Asia. We have a Japanese actor by the name of Naoki Aikida who signed up for a number of movies with a martial arts background, and he's also our Japanese voiceover artist. So he'll be doing the Japanese narrative. So when there'll be like the British subtitles will come up, or the English subtitles will come up at the bottom when he's doing the Japanese narration of the person telling the story. And then we have a whole load of people from the world of martial arts. People like Lady Lalaine Reed, who was one of the first women to be recognized with a presidential award for achievement in martial arts.
She's done a couple movies before, right? Like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen those.
Yeah. And we'll actually be, a couple of the scenes in The Girl in a Coma will actually be shot in and behind their dojo.
No kidding.
Yeah. We've been talking to Cynthia Rothrock, who's a huge martial artist, as well as having done a few movies before. We've been talking to John Krang. We've been talking to Darren Holmquist, Art Camacho, Basil, I can't remember his last name, Basil Masters, Don the Dragon Wilson, Mark Dacascos, like loads of people.
Who sounds so much fun.
Oh yeah. They're martial artists. They also act. We know their acting abilities. We've seen stuff they've been in. So it's like we're slowly lining them up. And we also have Mel Novak, who's making a return to the movies, who's in The Girl in a Coma as a special guest star appearance, but he's also in, I think, 2 of the Wounded Warrior movies. He was the original bad guy in the original martial arts action films of the 70s, 80s when they came to America.
Yeah.
So he's fought against Chuck Norris, Bruce Lee, like all of those.
The Chinese-speaking Westerner, is that what we're talking about, or is this I actually worked for the studio Shaw Brothers in Hong Kong for a couple of years. Yeah, and I was always saying that if you were a Westerner and you could speak Cantonese, you could be a villain in a Hong Kong movie in a heartbeat. You could just make a career out of it. Just learn Cantonese, move to Hong Kong. They'll kill you over and over again.
I can't speak Cantonese. Nihongo Gehanasuma Tsukoshi.
Well, it's better than I could do now. But
I speak a little Japanese.
Awesome. Anything else in development? I think I saw one more. Right, there was. You
will have seen Strange Magic up on there.
Okay, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Strange Magic was actually supposed to be the first movie that I was going to be making with Ivory Ocean. So I want that to come up very, very soon. If possible, we'd like to shoot that one next year as well.
Yeah.
It's another horror, supernatural thing. It's about an actual Armageddon type,
Okay.
Biblical Armageddon type movie. We've all seen the meteor strikes, we've all seen the alien invasions, we've all seen the sun superheating, and this one is actually, angels, demons, God, and all that lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a very unlikely group of people meeting. It's set in a particular area of Chicago. Along Lakeshore Drive, that sort of area. So anyone listening in from Chicago will know where we're talking about. The main characters in the movie, in different scenes before things seriously take off, you'll see other characters in the background of other, sort of main characters. Like these people live and work within a few blocks of each other and are completely unaware of each other's existence until Armageddon starts. And like this little group of people begin to figure out, wait a minute, this looks like, oh my God, is it for real? And they kind of end up meeting and trying to stop it.
Ah, that's pretty
Yeah.
cool. And is this going to be more effects laden than the other?
Yes. We actually have a young lady who worked on the CGI for Avatar and Tron Legacy, who's going to be doing our CGI for this movie.
Outstanding. That's great.
There's not a whole lot in it. Like all of the fight scenes, the guys will be doing the fighting, but their weapons will be enhanced with CGI because.
Because they're angels and demons.
Well, yeah, exactly. Because it's biblical. Like their weapons are part of themselves. Like the sword of truth. The sword of truth comes from the heart, so he pulls the sword from his own heart. So the sword, it has blood running through it. Its heart is beating. So that's obviously CGI because we can't actually do that.
Yeah,
too bad.
There's laws against that.
Yeah. They have supernatural weapons, so there'll be a little bit of enhancement. And then they're not going to have the big feathery wing. The angels do not have big feathery wings.
Yeah.
The wings will actually be added CGI afterwards because we want it to have more of an ethereal feel.
Yep.
So that they're not solid, and you can't kind of do not solid in real life.
Right.
So, going to some of the other aspects when I'm talking to you and you get all this. This is obviously the fun part of describing the story and everything. But you've made a lot of connections to get some funding and other people involved. Have a lot of experiences. This seems like so much to have done in the last 2 years. Like this is you've been very, very busy.
I know. I feel like this is taking too long. I just want to go make them, get them out there. But I've had so many people come to me and say, like, 2 years?
Yeah.
And I'm like, really? I was like, Special Unit is 10 years in the making.
Yeah.
It took them 10 years to get Special Unit made. So I'm like, I'm not doing too bad then.
Yeah.
No, you've got 3 that sound like they're pretty deep in development or close to, and one in pre-production, and you've made a ton of connections and gotten some funding, obviously.
Magic, almost.
Almost.
We haven't. No, well, see, I talked to private investors. I kind of had, sort of mixed reactions as to putting money in. Nobody wants to put what's called first in because they get their money back last. So it's like, they're like, oh, we'll match funds.
Yeah.
So I've got to still get the first funds for them to match the funds. So I decided to take the big studio route, and I now have an investment banker waiting to cut us a check.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
So you got your first. Well, at least close. You're close to getting the first.
Well, no, they'll fund the whole. They'll fund the whole project.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm now taking major studio route. So little old me, little old British girl, from nowhere, is about to be the next big thing in Hollywood.
That's awesome.
That's great.
Whilst we're remaining independent, All of our movies will be SAG approved, so we have access to all the same artists as the major studios. So we will have A-listers attached to our movies. We've got an investment bank who's waiting to cut checks. I already have a distribution deal in place for The Girl in a Coma, but I want to improve upon that. That's not a big enough distribution yet. So I have meetings with one of the biggest independent companies. They're in the top 20 for bankability aspects, and I also have a meeting coming up with one of the major mainstream distributors. But all I have to do to satisfy their criteria is up my director. So we were already considering somebody to be our director. And if they approve of who our director is, then we're good to go. I take that piece of paper, the directors, I just need their letter of interest or letter of intent, take that to the distributor. They greenlight the project, and then I take that paperwork to the bank and they give me a check.
Well, that's super exciting.
So we'll be doing it, major studio style, but keeping it, our budgets. Oh, I was gonna say our budgets are a lot lower than theirs. Some of ours aren't much lower than theirs. I have big plans. We have a zombie action movie which is going to be being added to the website today. So you guys, you're getting the exclusive right here, right now. Zombie action movie called H3N2Z.
Okay.
And we are looking at a budget of $105 million.
Whoa!
All right.
Sign me up.
And we already have some big names attached. But on top of that, the single most costly part of this movie is we've got to build a replica of the Ohio Bridge and blow it up.
That's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we blow it up with a tank.
Oh, that's cool.
And then we also have I suppose it would come under like spy espionage action movie coming up. We're already starting to cast for that one as well, and that one's got a pretty hefty budget because we'll be shooting it partly in America and partly in Israel. So that automatically puts the price up a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
And we will be blowing lots of things up. And we need to borrow a couple of helicopters.
Oh, well, I'm sure people will line up for that one too.
Wow, that sounds really remarkable. And like I said, 2 years of 2 years of work and a lot of exciting things in that amount of time that you're even able to chatter about this. A zombie movie of that budget, like in this, it's amazing, like that you've gotten that far in this amount of time. So.
Thank you. And I was going to say, I have to give a huge shout out to DL. She and I connected through a gentleman in Newcastle, I believe. And he made the e-production. She and I got chatting, and I'm going to be having her work on the original soundtracks to most of our movies. So she'll be up there in the annals, the Hall of Fame, with people like John Williams, Danny Elfman, people like that. Yeah.
That's awesome.
She's going to have that many movies under her belt very, very soon.
Awesome.
That's cool. We had a really good time talking to her.
Yeah.
It was a fun chat. So I kind of coming to the end of this. Is there anything else you'd like to add? Where would we go, and what time frames would we be looking for a Girl in a Coma, or how do people find you on the internet?
Okay, basically look anywhere for Unicorn and Cobra films, and you will find the website. You'll find us on IMDb. You'll find us on Snapchat, Twitter, Facebook, MySpace. Yes, we're even on MySpace. We have a YouTube channel. Hopefully by spring of next year, Unicorn and Cobra Films will have a TV channel. After that, we'll also be having our own radio chat station. Yeah,
Awesome. That's
we're,
amazing.
we're covering everything. No, one of the things I wanted to do, because we have a lot of fun when watching movies, is spotting like websites or phone numbers. If they're not 555, we go and see if they're real. So again, exclusive right here, folks. Any phone number or website listed in our movies will be a real one.
Oh, well, that's cool. That's a cool idea.
Yeah.
Even down to like there's a little teaser done for The Girl in a Coma, which I did $800 out of my own pocket just to help people get a feel of what we wanted to do with the movie. The girl in there who's the reporter, when we do the proper teaser for the movie, the letters on her mic will be for the news show that we'll have on our own TV channel.
That's great.
Right on.
So yeah, everything's linked. Just look for Unicorn and Cobra Films. Follow us on Twitter. Join our virtual street team. Every time you see hashtag UNC movies, retweet, because we will be giving away prizes, including signed posters, free tickets to events, free tickets to red carpet events, all kinds of things. Signed CDs for soundtracks. So join
That's
our
really
street
cool.
team now.
I'm gonna go follow you on all these things now.
Yeah.
That's what I'm gonna do right after this conversation. It's really great to hear your story, and I'm so glad you shared it with us.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
I know you guys weren't expecting that. I know, but it's
No, it's really I every one of these interviews that we've done, we've been kind of stunned.
Yeah.
And it really actually goes. Each one becomes more stunning. I don't know how anybody could surprise us more than this one, though.
So that's a challenge for all our next guests, is to beat that one, but I don't think so.
All right. Here
Holy
we are
crap!
again. Holy crap!
Wow.
Every interview that we've done, like I say in there, has been somewhat surprising, especially the ones where we're interviewing people that we already know.
I was incredibly blown away.
Yeah. So when we said, I was like, "Is it Sarita or Jade?" She was like, "Well, I had to use Jade while I was in the witness protection program."
And I thought, I did not. I went, okay, I've known people.
In the witness protection program.
Okay.
No. Nothing like this. What?
Yeah.
And then I was wondering how far she wanted to go. Was it, are we stepping on?
Right, and I almost, like the first time she said it, and then the second time she said it, was like, well, just let us know if we're stepping over it. But she just headlong right into it, and that was incredibly cool.
It was incredibly cool. It was
incredibly courageous and cool for her to just like bull right into that, and like
yeah. And then all of her work as a producer and the things that she's done since.
Yeah.
It makes me think about my own, you of course, like your own hang-ups around what you do.
Mm-hmm.
Like how many things, can you do? And then you think about how many excuses.
How many obstacles were against that.
Yeah.
And then just to bull right through.
Yeah, and then to think of all of my excuses and how lame they are in comparison.
Yeah.
To everything, she could have an excuse to not do anything.
Yeah.
It's like this happened to me and I'm having a hard time. And anybody that would be good enough. But holy crap, she started a production company. She's got seems like 5 movies in development at this point. All of them seem interesting.
My new hero.
What's my new hero?
Yeah, she's my new hero. Like just bull right into it. Yeah.
Roll right into it.
Yeah.
What would Sarita do? That's what I'm going to ask myself from now on.
Sarita, that's good. I like that. Call her up. Sarita, what would you do here?
Yeah, what would you do here?
I'm still just, I am taken back from like this whole thing. So I don't know if I can have any more coherent thought on like what else is in there.
Yeah. It was just an incredibly cool interview, and she's a really cool person to talk to.
Yeah.
And I that was chalk it up for really another great friend to have made along the way.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what she's done in a year.
Yeah, me too.
Let alone 2 more years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
I think that's it.
I think that's it. Now we'll get to you next time. I don't know who it is next time.
Thank you for listening to the Twisted Pop Podcast. For show notes, go to twistedpop.com/podcast. Merchandise at bigmyth.com. That's big-myth.com. In association with nquick.com. Until next time, this is the Twisted Pop